Stop scrolling.
This is an illusion. You never truly own anything here in America. You have to understand America as a corporation. That your last name is a business. That your number that you're given is a business. It's all a corporation. You must let go of the illusion. First, you have to figure it out first. You have to figure out what money is. It's promissory note. It's trade. How we trade. It's an illusion. It's all an illusion. And you're owned. The people that make the money don't care about money. They don't care about money. They print the money. They invented the money game. They don't care about money. The people that have the money or print the money out for you don't care about that. They care about power and control and harnessing your energy. They need your energy to power this civilization they have. They don't give a damn about money. They care about your...
I go to pull this down.
Who the fuck is it going to be? Them or me? Me or them? like they fucking think that I need to make a fucking choice.
Welcome to the Matrix, a world where the boundaries of reality are blurred, and humanity fights to break free from the chains of illusion. Meet Neo, a disillusioned computer programmer searching for answers in a world that seems too perfect to be true. Joined by allies like Trinity, a fearless warrior, and Morpheus, a wise sage, Neo discovers the truth. That the world he knows is a simulated reality, created by machines to subdue and control humanity. As he delves deeper into the secrets of the Matrix, Neo unlocks hidden powers within himself, becoming the one prophesied to lead humanity out of darkness and into the light. But standing in his way are the agents, powerful programs sent by the machines to maintain the status quo and eliminate anyone who threatens to disrupt their control. Prepare to question everything you know about reality as you journey into the heart of the Matrix.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
99% of the world that got to work for the 1%. And the way they make the 99 fight each other so that we continue to separate and work for the 1%. So either way, all these people that care about the president are paying for a billionaire, but both of them. I'm not jacking none of that. Pause, because I don't know what's going on. They're all gray areas. I can just control what I see and know. I'm not depending on the government to pay for my hospital bills. I'm not depending on the government to pay for my where I live. I'm not knocking anyone that does, but I'm in the unless it's capital gains, the 40 to 50% bracket. And I always owe taxes. So when you owe $12 million of taxes, how do you pay that back without making $24 million? But they snatching your money every day. They fucking with your working capital. You know what they don't teach you in school? How to have money, how to keep money. You know why my network is I don't know how to keep it. I never went to school. Nobody taught me how to keep money or when to pay taxes, what capital gains is, what's a trust. Well, no one taught none of that shit. So that's what we do. We talk about people that don't matter, shit that doesn't affect our personal life, and we're worried about what other people do and what they could do for us when we should be worried about focusing on how to do for ourselves and understanding the money is man-made. I don't give a fuck about money. There's no goal behind it. It's all a Ponzi scheme. I care about love as my currency. How much time I spend with my child. What's my net worth? I'm a dad. That I pick my kid up from school and I bring him to school. And I can bring him to work. Then I can bring him to a jail. I can bring him to a school. And he gonna watch his daddy be a superhero.
And it's like, y'all can't fuck with me either because y'all behind that gated fence. Y'all soft. Your hands got soft. You ain't out here getting beat up every day like me. You ain't out here getting called crazy every day like me. You ain't out here getting your family snatched like me. You ain't out here half your culture getting aborted like me. You ain't out here getting outraged with false narratives like BLM like me. So for all the Jewish media, y'all want to sit down and have a conversation with me? Then let's have a conversation. But you ain't gonna send Harley Pasternak, Puff Daddy, Meek Mills, Kim Kardashian, none of the usual suspects, and get me to stop talking. You're going to have to take my life. I don't care if you Black Mirror me. I don't care if you do some of the alternative, what the thing was, show me talking, saying somebody didn't say. I don't care what you do. You're going to have, And by the way, and if you take my life, there's gonna be some college kid, some young Ye, some young Pac that's gonna even go harder. It's gonna, y'all thought George Floyd was gonna send it up. If you took my life right now, you're gonna see something you never saw. Please, please, or otherwise, shut the fuck up.
You're crazy! I'm not crazy, I just don't give a fuck!
I don't know what's happening. This whole week, people have asked me, what am I doing here? I simply don't know, and I'm just here doing things.
What the fuck am I doing here? And like, who are these people? I mean, who the fuck are you?
I'm a real Jew. I'm a real Jew toots. Trying to reconnect to my Jewish roots. I'm going to temple now, cause I'm a real Jew toots.
I think you're all fucked in the head.
Who runs the world? Are you trying to get me to talk about, like, anti-Semitic shit?
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Just seems like I was here yesterday. I was. Kinda. Fooled me once. Shame on you. It fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
So just to be clear, you're not going to sell or share any of the information on Facebook?
What the terms say is just, we're not going to share people's information except for with the people that they've asked for it to be shared. And you know, everyone gets privacy settings, which has always been one of the big differentiators for Facebook. And what makes it a really different service for people is you can say, you know, I want this photo album to go to these people, or I want this note to go to these people. And the privacy controls on Facebook are really unparalleled by anything else.
But how are you going to make money if you won't sell or share people's information?
The model is advertising, right? I mean, people's information is their own, but there are a lot of different companies and entities that want to buy advertising to take the information that they have, whatever their message is, and reach more people with it. You know, so our advertising is growing really quickly just because the number of people who are using Facebook around the world is growing quickly, right? So just past 175 million users, pretty soon we'll pass 200 million. So with that, you know, the advertising revenue is growing as well.
I'm starting to notice things I never saw before. Well, maybe I saw them. I just wasn't paying attention. For some reason, everything has become a metaphor.
Israel is a democracy and is our ally.
Yes,
right?
they are.
Explain to me what you see as, you know, why you target or why you have a grudge against the Israelis.
The grudge is not necessarily a grudge. It's an objective assessment that no one will have the courage to speak about. This may be you don't want to hear, I don't know. And I certainly don't want to hurt you on your show. You have one of the best. You're fair. But I believe that Israel has a powerful stranglehold on the American government. They control both members of the House and the Senate. They have us involved in wars of which we have little or no interest. Our children are coming back in body bags. Our nation is bankrupt over these wars. And if you open your mouth, you get targeted. And if they don't beat you at the poll, they'll put you in prison. They're controlling much of our foreign policy. They're influencing much of our domestic policy. Wolfowitz, as Undersecretary of Defense, manipulated President Bush #2 back into Iraq. They pushed definitely to try and get Bush before he left to move into Iran. We're conducting an expansionist policy of Israel, and everybody's afraid to say it. They control much of the media, they control much of the commerce of the country, and they control powerfully both bodies of the Congress. They own the Congress.
Are you an anti-Semite?
No, I'm not. That's exactly what they're going to say. We have a one-sided foreign policy in the Mideast, and we've alienated Arabs who have no way of fighting. So what they've done, and I predicted this on the House floor, is they would export violence to America, and they have. They have no other way to fight. I'm saying this to you right now. Israel gets approximately $15 billion a year from the American taxpayers. That $15 billion is $30,000 for every man, woman, and child. And people in my district are losing their pension benefits.
Now, there may be some tough times here in America, but this country's gone through tough times before, and we're going to do it again.
What happened to the conscientious objectors during the war who said, I'm sorry, I'm having no part of this? They were put in prison, and no one, or virtually no one, shouted a word of response to why is this man going into prison for his convictions. They were saying, coward, coward, weren't they? All the people that were manipulated to fight the war, when these people were exhibiting the ultimate courage. And in the end, that's all you can do. You can follow the courage of your convictions. And if we can get information out about the way the scam works, and if we can get people to open their minds and see they're not ordinary, because there's no such thing in creation, we get more and more people to stand up and say no. In the end, if you look at a pyramid, which is the structure of control, the top of the pyramid, you've got the few people that pull in the strings. But what they do is, in the way that you're talking about, they try to either keep people completely in the dark of what's going on and how they're playing a part in it unknowingly, but they also try to put people into positions where they think they have no choice. Now, we never have no choice. That is one of the great human misconceptions. We always have many choices. The thing is, we have choices we like to make and choices which have consequences we'd rather not have, but we've never got no choice.
You will go to a party with them, and you looking around like, damn, like, a lot of guys kissing each other in here, man. You feel me? What y'all do is y'all business.
So you've been to a party and seen this?
Oh, I've seen it firsthand, multiple times.
So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and I'm like, you know, I'm about to go into this next era of my life. And I'm gonna be doing a lot of positive things, you know, a lot of disruptive things. A lot of things I really don't want everybody to know about. So like on the gram, everybody knows about everything, you know. I want a deeper connection with my fans. So I came up with this idea. I was going to get a special phone number. And I was going to be able to give it to my family, my fans, everybody that's down with the movements that I'm about. You know what I'm saying? The Team Love movement, you know, Bad Boy, you know, Black excellence, entrepreneurialism, getting money, vibrations, inspiration, and just special, unique content that I'm going to share on this phone. And also, on top of that, I will be answering questions and talking to people and accepting resumes and, you know, giving information for parties.
Woo! What's up with it, motherfucker? What's up, baby? Did you miss me?
Yeah. Why can't we eat babies? What's wrong with eating babies? If we've got extra babies around that nobody wants, why can't we eat?
We are the first species on the face of this earth to be aware of evolution, to be aware that we are affecting our own evolution by everything that we do. The babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight. We are the first species to begin to understand not only are we aware of evolution, but we are evolution. We are evolution in person. And when you really think about it, our beings are a resume of the entire story of creation, from the original flaring forth, as Brian Swim called it. Every atom, molecule, cell, reptilian brain, mammalian brain.
Reptilian brain, mammalian brain.
And perhaps evolutionary brain, which I think is a form of brain that actually is picking up the entire pattern of creation as incarnate in you.
People always ask me how I stay so youthful. I tell them I eat well, get plenty of rest, and every third Sunday I drink the blood of a virgin. And these days, they're getting harder and harder to find.
But the orthodoxy says there are no conspiracies. So you must not believe in them, and we must censor them. You know what conspiracy theory means if you break it down? It means the acceptance that authority lies to us. That's it. That's the basis of it. And researching when authority makes statements which are supposed to become our perceptions, researching if on this occasion authority has lied again, because the whole history of authority is lying. But you get so many people who think they're anti-establishment, who jump on so-called conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists, when all it's saying is authority lies, and we're going to check out here to see if they're lying now. What it comes down to in the end is this. You say to someone, do you have respect for your own opinion? Well, yeah, I do. Do you think you've got a right to that opinion? Oh, yeah, of course I've got a right to that opinion. So why do you think no one else has, unless they agree with you? Why do people feel it is necessary to be so unbelievably arrogant as to say, I have a right to what I believe, but I'm going to censor and abuse you for having a different opinion? That's tyranny by any criteria. And what does that do? In any situation where the few are controlling the many, the few have to manipulate the many to control themselves. And what I've just described is the target population policing itself. It's like ditching the sheepdog and the sheep policing the sheep to keep them in line.
War never changes. There is much
to be skeptical of in this world. So it no longer surprises me to learn how many people don't really believe in anything.
Here's me again, Mr. New Vegas, reminding you that you're nobody till somebody loves you, and that somebody is me.
I contacted my colleague, a well-known person in the criminal underworld, and simply told him I had a child for sale. I wanted to sell that child for spare parts to a brothel, to pedophiles. I didn't give a fuck where it would go. I just wanted to sell it and make money. So he said he'd help me.
What do you mean to a brothel? Such small kids are used in brothels too?
Of course. It's pretty common in Germany.
Meaning?
Meaning such small kids are first put up with a family that raises them until they turn 3 or 4, and then they're sent to a brothel.
The sale of a newborn baby is carried through in such a way that in the hospital the mother signs the child trafficker in as the father. Then he takes the baby abroad. No one will ever look for them, as the baby is officially somewhere in Europe with its father. Do you have any emotional attitude toward the baby?
No. I'm trying to think practically.
And when you learned the baby's gender, did that little person become more real in your head?
No.
What do you feel when you look at your belly?
Nothing. Disgust. I don't like it at all. I'd like to get rid of it.
Why do you think your life would be over if you had the baby?
Because it's slavery. It's a tie. It's sleepless nights. A baby's not a dog you can teach to be alone for several hours or so. It's not like a cat, for example, that you can leave it with a litter box, a bowl of water, some food, and go away for 3 days.
Which is more profitable? Selling the child for organs or to a brothel?
For the mother, selling the child as an organ donor.
Do you know the final price of the organs? How much a child like that costs in Europe?
Yes, I do.
All in all, how much is the heart, for example?
I know the liver costs 70,000 Polish zlotys. It's a black market. So it's obvious only wealthy people who have a lot of money are involved. If their child is ill, this is their way to ensure its longer life.
What's the greatest demand?
The liver, the heart, the retina, the eyes, the retina.
Do you know the price of the retina or the heart?
The heart is worth almost 70,000 euros.
What's your approach to selling a child?
Honestly, if it wasn't for this child, who is merchandise, I wouldn't be able to do it. But the thing is, if there's a possibility to earn quite good money on it, why not? They offer 50 to 150,000. It depends.
Do you believe it's a good price, 50 for a child?
Without intermediaries, I'd say it's enough.
Enough for what?
To make up for those 9 months. Where else could a young person like me earn 50,000 in 9 months?
Have you thought what you'd buy with that money?
No, but if I could afford it, perhaps a nice car?
Clothes?
A phone? New shoes?
Did you get any offers?
Leah offered 80,000.
Was that offer attractive?
It seemed so at the beginning. especially since I knew she'd have to bear that child and then go through a recuperation process. So I knew she'd need money. Therefore, it seemed attractive, but later I did more research and figured out someone was trying to con us in a way that instead of giving us the price in euros, they did it in Polish zlotys.
What's the name of the portal?
Its name is Sperm Donors Let's Make Babies. It's a website where different people post their ads. Women who want to give away or sell their children. Women seeking co-parenting. I posted an ad in which I offered a child for money. After I'd done that, I received replies from 4 families, but I also read other posts. I liked 2 of them because they were looking for girls.
How did you figure out it was trading?
Every time a little baby is involved, we know these ads have been posted by people who want to get rid of such a baby. And they don't care where the baby will end up.
My name is Annemarie van Blijenburg. I have been married for 24 years met Kees van Kortlaar. Kees van Kortlaar, together with his 3 brothers, form a criminal organization known as the Octopus Syndicate. They work from 1960 on till the day of today. In order of Queen Beatrix, they have organized martel, torture, rape and killing of children in a public setting. They organized that through youth detention centers in the Netherlands. The youth detention centers were told that the criminals were asking for the Dutch court for children who could work with the Dutch Queen for a certain period. The detention centers were very happy. They thought that Queen Beatrix was a very social woman, and they gladly volunteered in giving files of certain children to the criminals. When they wanted to verify what the criminals told them, they were given a name and a phone number of a high-ranking officer at the court of Queen Beatrix, and that high-ranking officer would state and tell them that indeed those criminals were seeking children to work for a certain period at the Dutch court. After receiving files of approximately 3 children every time, the criminals selected a child that had no relative or family. They told the youth detention center, child A is the one we want to see. The youth detention center bought clothes with the child so that it was well clothed to go to a solicitation conversation and put the child on train to Zwolle. In Zwolle, the criminals fetched the child from the station, brought it to a building which was equipped as a hotel but was not working as a hotel, although there were people in the lobby doing as if the hotel was in work. The child was put on a table and were giving something to drink. And in that drink, with that drink, the child was drugged. Besides that hotel was a building where the performance should take place. In that building, the people were sat down, and at a certain moment, the child was brought into that building by the criminals, was tortured, raped, and brutally murdered before those people. The audience was around Johan Frieso, Prince Johan Frieso, the second son of Queen Beatrix. I was told that Johan Frieso was quite insane and had an unhealthy interest in young children, and had steady psychiatrists every day of his life with him. And the psychiatrist's name was Xxiv. The criminals organized those killings in accordance with Beatrix. Beatrix paid for it, paid for the killings, and Johan Frieso, the criminals asked Johan Frieso to bring his relatives or friends with him, and so the whole building was filled with very important people from the Netherlands, ministers, high-ranking officers, and all kinds of people that the criminals could put on photo, so they could blackmail those people and get criminal advantages from that.
Could you name some of the people who were present?
The people that I recognized there were, for instance, Prince Johan Frieso, his steady psychiatrist, Xxiv. I recognized Mabel Smith. She was there with an old steady man, I think it was George Soros. I recognized Donner, former minister of the Law Department, at this moment Viceroy of the Netherlands. I recognized Ernst Hirsch-Ballin, a very important former Minister of Justice. I recognized E. van den Emster. He was for years the head of all judges in the Netherlands. I recognized Dick Berlijn, the former head of the military department in the Netherlands. I recognized a journalist, a very important journalist, Gerlof Leistra, of the journal The Elsevier. I recognized Carla Herades. At present, she is president of the court in Amsterdam, a judge. I recognized Mark Rutte. He's at this moment president of the Netherlands. I recognize Geert Wilders. He is at this moment the head of the political party PVV in the Dutch parliament. There were about 50 people every time I was taken there. I have been taken there 3 times. I have seen every time kill a child, a child was killed, and I have seen 2 boys killed. I have seen 1 girl killed. I presume those children were Netherlands children. I presume those children came from the detention centers of the Netherlands on the way and were recruited on the way that I've told.
You said that officials at the detention centers said that they thought that they had been eaten?
I've asked the journalists about in 2005, year 2005 or 2006. I asked the journalist of the journal De Telegraaf to look it out for me and to publish it in the newspaper, what was happening. The journalist told me that he had controlled my story with all the youth detention centers in the Netherlands and had spoken to people who had indeed given those files to the criminals and thought that the children they put on the train were going to a solicitation conversation and were going to work in the court of Queen Beatrix. And that some of those people of the detention center told the journalist that they thought that Queen Beatrix was eating those children up because they were putting them on the train to Zwolle and they never saw them back or heard anything about them anymore.
Do you know what happened to the remains of the children after they died? Do you know where they were buried or what they did with them?
Yes, unfortunately I know, yes. They were first thrown in a container behind the building where they were murdered, a cooling container. After certain performances, the container was brought to Belgium, where they had a piece of land where they put the children in a hole.
What is the name of the place in Belgium, do you know?
I must look it up.
Okay.
I thought that I've found it, but I must look it up.
What is it that you'd like to see happen about all this?
Oh, I want to see those criminals forever after bars.
Yeah. You haven't received any help though from within the Netherlands, you said.
Not one thing. I know it is terrible. From 2004 on till now today, I have spoken with every policeman I could find. Spoken with every law official I could find. I've talked to Interpol about this. I've been to court to try to get a conviction of the prosecutor to investigate the matter. The court told me that it wasn't my problem, it was a problem of the society, and the court didn't want to give an order to the prosecutor to investigate. I have done literally everything to clear this up. I haven't, no, I have the idea that everything is stopped because Beatrix is involved.
Right.
And the Dutch court is involved. And every time some policeman wants to investigate, they slap him on the shoulders and say, don't do that because Queen Beatrix doesn't want it.
Are you willing to give this testimony in another court, say a common law court?
Yes. I have no objections about that. I'm very, very angry. If you've seen what I've seen, it always stays with you. I can put it aside because it is one of the cruel things that I've seen, but it's horrible.
Yes.
It's really horrible. It is idiots. One time when I was driven back to my home, so my husband took me there. My husband drugged me and my husband let me see that, and my husband brought me back to the home. And my home was about 100 kilometers far. And during that ride, I suddenly came to my senses. I suddenly discovered that was a child that I had seen killed. I burst out in tears. My husband was driving. He put his arm to me and he said, "Don't bother. They're children of a minor order. It's just trash. It doesn't matter that they are killed." It's horrible. It's horrible. It's I can't describe it. It's horrible. It's idiot. Those people who was looking there and not doing anything. Those people are idiots.
And your husband is still alive.
He's still alive and he's still killing people. It's idiot. If you just think how many people since 2004, since I tried to stop it, have been killed. It's 10 years.
Yeah.
They kill approximately perhaps 10 or 20 people a year, if not more. It's horrible. I have shown the police. I have let them see 4 places in the Netherlands they used as graveyards for people. They liquidated them. Never any policeman has taken the trouble to look.
Can you name those 4 places?
Yes, I can name those places. I can show them, but.
Investigators are trying to find a CIA worker who may be a traitor. That person is believed to be the source of top secret documents revealed. The CIA and FBI are working together to investigate the security breach. The stolen documents were stored in a highly secure section of the CIA.
Last several months, investigators have been narrowing down the number of people who may have had access to the data. Sources familiar with this investigation say that number was likely in the hundreds. This morning, the prevailing theory is that the source of the breach is a CIA insider. Investigators are looking for a CIA employee or contractor who had physical access to the material. The security breach involves the theft of CIA documents and hacking tools. WikiLeaks went public with the material last month, uncovering tools purportedly used to penetrate smartphones, smart televisions, and computer systems.
Son of a bitch!
Jesus Christ.
Fuck this shit.
Agenda 21 quickly became what is commonly known as Agenda 2030. So these are basically just the Sustainable Development Goals from the World Economic Forum, the UN, and yeah, it's pretty much the basis for all the chaos we see today, to the global economic destabilization, the civil unrest, and yes, the rise of authoritarian governments as well. But that's not all. It can also be attributed to the rise of authoritarian thinking just within the masses. And the reason being is because they have instilled these core tenets to their ideology throughout public education. As they said, they sought a new enemy, and the enemy is humanity. I mean, come on, openly talk about it. One more point on this: environmentalism is not the problem. I don't know one person that does not want to solve pollution, protect rainforests, clean up the oceans, figure out a way to stop microplastics from pretty much destroying everything. We're all for that. But the problem is that they're using those to manipulate people, using that sentiment. I do believe the most significant danger to our world is the power-mad sociopaths who will subjugate the world to their will. And they're going to do it all for their new economic order. To any who actually do believe the narrative, I don't know what to tell you. Carbon markets and social credit scores are not going to change the climate. It's just a ruse to control you. I came across a quote from a man named Arnold Toynbee. And if you don't know, this guy has ties to the origins of the modern transhumanist depopulationist agenda. He has ties to guys like Cecil Rhodes and the Tavistock Institutes. He's even connected to guys like Alfred Milner and the Round Table groups. He said, and I quote, "The cult of sovereignty has become mankind's major religion. Its God demands human sacrifice," end of quote. I think that's an interesting quote because, as I interpret it, well, it's a great example of their smug disdain. And it shows, collectively, how all of these people think. Because this idea that sovereignty is something to decry, that sovereignty, either on a national level or an individual level, that sovereignty is somehow hindering human progress. I mean, it's crazy. They all have this weird collectivist worldview. Yes, they seem to believe that a centralized global authority would solve all of humanity's problems. So once again, in the quote, he mentions that sovereignty has become mankind's major religion and its God demands sacrifice. It's also pretty interesting because the core point to their entire philosophy is that human sacrifice is not only needed, but obliged for their utopian view. They openly talk about how they need less people on the planet.
So in the session we just attended here at the Economic Forum, I think there was a sense of relief, actually, in your frankness. You brought up some issues that others are reluctant to bring up.
Always. All the religious groups are against me because I'm talking about population. They want more souls. I want less on the planet.
That's what I hope for, that the planet can support something like 1 billion people, maybe 2 billion, depending on how much liberty and how much material consumption you want to have. If you want more liberty and more consumption, you have to have fewer people. And you can have more people. I mean, we could even have 8 or 9 billion probably if we have a very strong dictatorship, which is smart.
Fuck you. And your Judah!
You want to act like a dog, you gotta think like a dog, till you smell like a dog.
Had some crabs, Dan Marino and his really dynamic wife, TV stars, Andy Garcia. It's just a fact. I met an onion grower today at the airport when I arrived, and he said, "You got to help me find people that'll pull onions, or pluck them, or whatever you do with them, you know." I think tide turning. As I remember, I was raised in the desert, but tides kind of it's easy to see a tide turn. Did I say those words? I couldn't imagine somebody like Osama bin Laden understanding the joy of Hanukkah. It was not always a given that the United States and America would have a close relationship. After all, 60 years we were at war. This is an extraordinary year. When you think about it, in the first month of a new year, there will be an election in the Palestinian territory, and there will be an election in Iraq. Who could have possibly envisioned an election in Iraq?
Have you ever felt like a puppet in your own workplace, like someone else is pulling the strings? Welcome to the complex and often unseen world of workplace manipulation. It's a realm where the invisible puppet strings of influence and control are subtly pulled, shaping our actions and decisions, often without us even realizing.
You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. Do you want to know what it is?
What is the Black Awakening?
It's related to the Red Horse prophecy in Revelation. It's related to 2 Thessalonians 2, when it says about the day of the Lord, the parousia. That day will not occur until the apocalypse of the Antichrist and the apostasy, or the word rebellion or revolt. That's all really defined in the prophecy of the Red Horse. But here's where the term came from and why I used it purposely. When I started dealing with ritually abused individuals, and then we dealt with military-oriented, highly trained, programmed shooters and assassins inside of them. When we began to deal with them, I dealt with someone from Fort Bragg for quite a while, and a few others. We're sitting at a lake, Conneaut Lake. They reached over and ripped open my shirt to see if I was wired, if I was wiring and recording them. And they were the most sophisticated satanic warrior type person. They knew 5-6 languages. They knew the ancient Twilight languages. They knew how to conjure. They knew how to use Belteshazzar, Okwam, all these old Pictish languages of the Druids to summon. They are the real Luciferian. They've been through many human sacrificial things. So they sat there to tell me some of those things, what they've been involved with, how they sacrifice a human. I'm listening to all this stuff from them. And then they said to me, you have no idea, Russ, how many of us there are out there. How many satanic, they use the term, chosen ones. You have no idea how many. You have no idea what's coming. We smell Christian blood. We are waiting for our day. And when the call is given, millions of us will be released. And they looked at me and said, you believe in revivals, and you believe in Pentecost and the power of God. You believe in all that. We believe in the Black Awakening, a multi-continental release of power to activate the program demonized, where they've weaponized the demonic powers to these super soldiers.
Are they waiting for a specific time to unleash their power?
Yeah, they are, because they have to do it at the moment the Antichrist is, like you read in 2 Thessalonians 2, that it's caught to echo, the restrainer is holding back the apocalypse of the Antichrist, the unveiling in his movement. So right now he's held restrained. As soon as he who restrains is removed, as soon as that occurs, we have White Horse, the release of the Antichrist. Instantly, we have the release of the red, it says the whole earth. Arraign, peace is taken from the whole earth, and all of a sudden, it doesn't give the details, but all of a sudden, on a global scale, people are released to begin to, and the Greek word is sphadzo, slaughter, begin to slaughter people. It's used of animal ritual butchery, to begin to slaughter individuals. That's exactly how they defined it to me back in the 90s. And we've heard this again and again and again. So that scenario fits the Masonic version of Chaos Before a New Order. It fits Father Meridon from the Cathedral of the Black Goat, his book, The Devil's Bible. It fits that scenario too. So some of the oldest, darkest occultists, the idea of chaos first, a collapsing of everything so that a new order could rise, that's all by design. And we've been given the heads up in prophecy, but all prophecy has boots on the ground. It'll all eventually happen. So I do believe that millions and millions of these trained, programmed, altered, demonized super soldiers, whether we want to say it or not, they believe they're being raised to help bring the Antichrist in. When I was in England just a few months ago, their top guy that deals with SRA, Wilfred Wong, 25 years. So first time I meet him, I pull him aside and I said, listen, you've been doing this 25 years, yeah? I said, you know all about programming and demons, all that? Yes. I looked right at him and I said, Wilfred, why are they here in England? Instantly, he said, they are here to collapse our government. They are here to help bring in and usher in the Antichrist and the New Order. He didn't know me. He already knew. That's true in Germany, when we were in Germany, when we went to Wedelsberg Castle. That's true in Poland, when we went there. That's true in Switzerland. It's true in Canada. So when we talk about our research in 38 years worldwide, there may be well over 100 million.
Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.
What? Yes.
When George Bush used this term, he used several other terms that along with this term, New World Order. He also said 1,000 points of light. He used another term, New Age, another term, peace and safety. Jordan, who else in history has used this terminology?
Well, of course, all of the despots of history have used similar terminology, and it's always been the same concept of a total world domination. Go back to Nebuchadnezzar and in Babylon, talking about how he had gathered all the peoples under him and how impressed he was with himself. You go down the line, and all of the great dictators and tyrants of the world have always dreamed of taking over the world, but everyone tried it the wrong way. Everyone has tried to take over the world with military, and everyone has discovered that military will not work. You cannot police and militarize enough to take over the world. So the Illuminati in 1776 developed a whole new concept of how to pull this project off. Instead of trying to force people into a new order or a totalitarian dictatorship under military, which you cannot do because people are always going to rebel at that, The idea was developed by Adam Weishaupt to create enough violence and create enough chaos and enough bloodshed to frighten the world, so that the entire world of mankind would one day come to the conclusion that there's too much bloodshed, too much crime, and there's just no possible way for the human race to exist unless we come together and pool our resources, and all of us accept one government and one order, and we will all live together in peaceful, happy, on one family, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Are the Satanists involved in the New Age movement? Is the New Age movement really sort of a cover for this whole Luciferian conspiracy, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say it's a cover. I would say it's the integral part of it. You know, the spiritual heart of what you're talking about. You know, a new world order. In fact, Alice Bailey, who coined the term New Age, who was a psychic and a channeler and an occultist, coined the term New Age and also coined the term New World Order. They both came from the same source. In her book, Externalization of the Hierarchy, she said that the New World Order would be based on the ancient wisdom or ancient occultism, which is where the term New Age came from.
Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky wrote a magazine. I've had the bound works of that magazine entitled Lucifer Magazine. She had a lot of followers. Adolf Hitler was one. He certainly incorporated a lot of the occult symbology.
Well, let me comment on that real quickly.
Third Reich.
The term swastika, that is not a German term. The very name swastika is a Hindu word, and it's a symbol. Now, most people in the audience have probably never heard of this, but in occultism, it deals a lot with energies, with powers and forces, and these powers and forces come through something that are called chakras. And the word chakra is a Hindu word which means spinning vortex. Now, we're from esoteric Hinduism and had nothing to do with, you know, ancient German culture or folklore at all.
Now, I've got a magazine which looks something like Time magazine. On the front cover, it talks about power places of the earth and a great meeting over in Egypt where they were going to have a channeling conference. And of course, at the turn of the century, in the year 2000, I believe all of the leaders are going to be at the base of the Great Pyramid. Is this correct, Jordan?
Yes, it was in the Los Angeles Times. I still have the article, where all of the major leaders of the world governments are going to meet, and George Bush has an open invitation to be there. It's called the World Millennium Society.
I work in dealing with the infiltration of churches and religious institutions as well as government that cover a tremendous number of institutions.
And the purpose of that infiltration was what for?
Well, the purpose is what the Roman Catholic system has all the time as their own purpose, is to infiltrate, to penetrate all the areas of life where the Roman Catholic can have control and access for the coming world government. What that means is, in preparation for that world government, the Roman Catholic institution, especially since the establishment of the Jesuit order in 1541, throughout all these 500 years, they've been in preparation, to infiltration and penetration of every level of society in order to take over the world politically and religiously. There are two doctrines that define very well these dangerous goals of the Roman Catholic institution. Two doctrines define this very well. One is called the doctrine of the apostolic succession, and that is dealing with the papacy. And the other is the doctrine, the temporal power, and that is dealing with world government. Of course, both, because you can see that even the Pope and his own individual office, he meet those requirements. He is not only the head of his church, as he called himself, John Paul II, the present Pope. He said he is the pastor of his church. He is not only that, but he is the head of his state, of his country. What that means, he is the head of a political state. Both combinations are in one office there. In prophetically speaking, that is what we see in the book of Revelation. The political power always hand to hand with the religious power.
Did you ever come to the point that you were required to destroy human life?
Definite is part of the oath and induction of any Jesuit that come under the oath and induction. And perhaps you care to know that I have revealed a great deal of this in this booklet after Alberto came out, the first part of my testimony, dealing with my minor seminar and major seminar, as we went through these questions. And now you have in double prose is revealing at least a little part in these pages here. Page, let's see, this is 12 and 13 at least. You see there is part of the oath and induction that I was taking, as I swear, to take the life not only of kings and princes and governors and mayors and senators and congressmen, but even my mother or father or brother or sister, whosoever come to be between the interests of the Roman Catholic system and the interest that they pursue. What that means is, if a president of a nation is there to interfere with the interests of the Roman Catholic institution in their pursuit of power, they will be crushed. They'll actually, I was granted that authority, that power, to exercise that authority, that power. That when any individual, whether it is a child, whether it is a woman, whether it's an elder man, whether it's a boy, whether it's a girl, whether it's a king or a queen, regardless of who the person is, when that person, that city, that nation, this country opposed to the goals of the Roman Catholic Church and interfere with, that already call for disaster. Where I prepare Cursitistas, the Legion of Mary, the Blue Army, many of these militant organizations, I train and prepare how they can become Baptists, how they can become Adventists, how they can become Methodists, how they can become Presbyterian, how they can become Pentecostal, in all these areas where they most infiltrate any area.
It was a week ago. They called us up and they said, listen, we have no choice. We have to hit you because we have our own self-respect. And I understood that. We hit them. They got to do something. We're going to launch 18 missiles at a certain military base that you have. And you remember that night. Interesting night. I was the only one that wasn't nervous because I knew what was going to happen. They told us that don't be concerned, we're going to launch 18 missiles at your military base, but none of them will hit the base. These are very accurate missiles. These are missiles that essentially never miss. They're very reliable, very accurate. 5 of them blew up in the air, didn't make it, and the others hit outside the base area. You remember that, Louis, you were there, right? Louis was very nervous. I wasn't nervous because I knew something that Louis didn't know. So they told me that they were going to hit us, but they just had to do it. Now, I never told that story before, but you know what that story is about? Respect for our nation. Respect for our nation.
I say we break into the place, trash the office, make off with the records and say it was industrial espionage.
I thought my jokes were bad.
You should just fucking smile and blow me! Cause I deserve it!
Blame you!
I deserve to be blown first!
Okay, the John Birch Society, big topic. John Birch Society, of course, was the point of origin of the entire array of white right-wing organizations that we see today. And the John Birch Society was a controlled opposition movement. I just want to read a quote by Anton Chaikin, which he wrote in one of his exposés. There are a lot of little brothers watching Big Brother. The quote refers to George Orwell's novel 1984, in which the dictatorial government, Big Brother, created false opposition movements secretly under its control. Orwell's novel is modeled on British Empire practice, as in Kenya, where the British set up ineffective opposition to colonialism as counter-gangs to subvert true independence movements. And the thing about false opposition movements, that they are operated, I've stopped quoting from Anton Chaikin, but they are secretly controlled by people who are part of the very opposition that they claim to be against. And their purpose is to render any opposition to their agenda as ineffective and to subvert any opposition that would arise, true opposition that would arise among the people that they are trying to control. Now, the John Birch Society was founded in 1958 by Robert Welch, who is believed to have been a 32nd degree Mason. About 20 years later, there was an expose of the John Birch Society published called the Belmont Brotherhood. This was in 1977, that a group of former high-ranking John Birch members wrote this expose of the National Council at Belmont, Massachusetts. Now, that was where the John Birch headquarters were originally located. The expose profiles 13 of the John Birch founding council members and some of the later Birch figures that were on the board of the American Pinion magazine. Now, these 13 John Birch council members, the founding members of the John Birch Society, all of them were either high-ranking Freemasons or connected directly with the Federal Reserve System, or else they were Council on Foreign Relations members. All of their credentials were the credentials of liberal, global totalitarians and power elites. Well, when these researchers who worked for Robert Welch and these National Council discovered this, they were very angry, and they wrote the Belmont Brotherhood. And the head of this committee was Nicholas Bove. He analyzed the whole situation at the end of the Belmont Brotherhood expose. He said, he wrote, "You may object. Look at all the great things Robert Welch has done. He has exposed the Illuminati." Baloney. The Illuminati was merely a branch of the conspiracy. How can one attack the Illuminati without attacking the diabolical power behind it, organized Freemasonry? Welch has provided the most valuable service of all time to the conspiracy. He founded an organization to neutralize millions of Americans from discovering the true power behind the Illuminati. And we can see that the Masons chose an extremely clever man to do the job. Welch, with the help of the Belmont Brotherhood, plays his role very effectively.
Hi there, my name is Alan Lamont. This video is about the true history of the Illuminati. Now, before I begin this, I must explain that in 1773 Pope Clement abolished the Jesuits forever. And so that is why in 1776 they raised up Adam Weishaupt to create the Illuminati. Now let's go into the history of the Illuminati itself. When you trace the origin of this organization, it ultimately is traced to the leader of this group, which was a man named Dr. Adam Weishaupt, who was born on February the 6th, 1748. It's said that he was the son of a Jewish rabbi. When his father died in 1753, he was converted to Catholicism by Baron Johann Adam Eðìţəɗ. who turned the early training of the boy over to the Jesuits. Eðìţəɗ in 1742 had been appointed by the Jesuits to be the curator of the university in order to reorganize the university, and he also retired in 1765, but still obviously controlled its policies. Why did the Jesuits train Adam Weishaupt? That's a very important question. He was a Jesuit priest. That is overlooked a lot by people who talk about the Illuminati, in the sense that they only bring forth the revelation that it's a Masonic structure. So they imply that Masonry controls the Illuminati, or even Adam Weishaupt, you know, because he was a Jew, Zionism, the elders of Zion, they control the Illuminati and so on. So you have Masonry diversion and you have, you know, Jewish diversion. But the fact is, the Rothschilds were there at the very beginning funding this, obviously, but their wealth was the wealth of the Jesuit order. So you do have Jews around this group. We also have Masonry, because Adam Weishaupt infiltrated Masonry, but Adam Weishaupt was a priest. You've got to ask yourself, why did a Jesuit priest create the Illuminati? It's believed, and it's said by a lot of agents on the internet, disinformation agents, that Adam Weishaupt developed a distinct hatred for the Jesuits. That's complete deception. If you're a high Jesuit, you can't go against the order. You can't do that, you know, because also it's said also by a lot of agents online that, you know, Adam Weishaupt was an atheist, and he was given access to the private library of Eðìţəɗ, and his godfather, the young man, became interested in the works of the French philosophers and studied law, economics, politics, history. He's a very intelligent man, Adam Weishaupt, very knowledgeable, because he was trained by the Jesuits, of course. And also, he studied Voltaire in 1694 to 1778. A revolutionary who held liberal religious views had written in a letter to King Frederick II, the Great, who was a Mason, King Frederick, quote, "Lastly, when the whole body of the church should be sufficiently weakened and infidelities strong enough, the final blow is to be dealt by the sword of open, relentless persecution. A reign of terror is to be spread over the whole earth and continue while a Christian should be found obstinate enough to adhere to Christianity." It is also believed that Weishaupt got his ideas concerning the destruction of the church from Voltaire's writings. And also he studied in France, where he met Robespierre, who later led the French Revolution, another high Mason. It was the Jesuits who were pulling the strings. It was the Jesuits who were controlling the French Revolution through Napoleon Bonaparte, of course. But we also see this conspiracy to destroy the church. That's what the Illuminati was.
Although G. Edward Griffin gave the most complete and revelatory description of the secret meetings held at Jekyll Island in his book, there were a few major elements which he did not cover. The largest of these matters is the sinking of the Titanic. Many have argued that the Titanic was sunk on purpose to eliminate opposition to the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank. Some of the wealthiest men in the world were aboard the Titanic for her maiden voyage, several of whom, including John Jacob Astor IV, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus, were allegedly opposed to the creation of a U.S. central bank. All three men died during the sinking. According to these theories, J.P. Morgan, the 74-year-old financier who set up the eponymous banking firm, arranged to have the men board the ship and then sunk it to eliminate them. Morgan, nicknamed the Napoleon of Wall Street, had helped create General Electric, U.S. Steel, and International Harvester, and was credited with almost single-handedly saving the U.S. banking system during the Panic of 1907. As we have already discussed, Morgan had a hand in the creation of the Federal Reserve, but also owned the International Mercantile Marine, which owned the White Star Line, and thus the Titanic. Morgan, who had attended the Titanic's launch in 1911, had booked a personal suite aboard the ship, with his own private promenade deck and a bath equipped with specially designed cigar holders. He was reportedly booked on the ship's maiden voyage, but instead canceled the trip and remained at the French resort of Aix-les-Bains to enjoy his morning massages and sulfur baths. His alleged last-minute cancellation has fueled speculation that he knew of the ship's fate. The fact that Morgan and his wife were both infatuated with astrology and the occult fueled even further speculation. There are also many who believe that the ship that sank was in fact Titanic's sister ship, Olympic, disguised as Titanic. As an insurance scam by its owners, the International Mercantile Marine Group, controlled by American financier J.P. Morgan, that had acquired the White Star Line in 1902. Griffin would also neglect to consider Jekyll Island's Native American history and all spiritual reasons for why the island was selected as a meeting place for such an evil endeavor.
Transhumanism stems from the older eugenics movement that started in the mid-19th century and lasted all the way through the first half of the 20th.
Well, the cybernetics really seems to be the roots of what transhumanism came out of. These guys are coming in and saying, not so fast. The human brain doesn't do anything but interpret, and it can be hacked or manipulated or programmed, and we can engineer the human mind en masse worldwide to get some outcome that we want. And this starts to play into social engineering, transhumanism, cybernetics, all of it. But people need to be aware, man, if you're going to play the Facebook game and you're going to play the other social media games where your whole life is laid out, what you are doing is contributing data to the push to transhumanism. That these guys couched scientism and all these other things, transhumanism and cybernetics, with the ultimate goal of how do we hack the human mind, how do we control a world population. That's what this is about.
That if you've seen the movie The Howling, the
Yes.
original Howling
Yes.
movie, where they had that amazing, I think the actor was actually Robert Picardi or Picardo or something like that, who was playing this punk that was going to turn, and they couldn't get the makeup right. And so, because Hollywood is just crawling with Satanists, they just say, okay, just bring in a real werewolf and we'll film it. So, I wasn't there, but according to this testimony of an ex-Satanist, that was a real werewolf transformation, but I have never personally seen it.
I've seen it, and it's the best graphics I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, and when you think about it, that was a long time ago. That was before they had CGI or anything. And at the same time, the irony of it is, they had another film that came out almost the same time called An American Werewolf in London.
Seen that too, yeah.
That was done with makeup.
Right.
It was done by Rob Bottin. See, I used to be a big horror movie buff back in my unregenerate days. And amazing. But so I have seen the finished product. I've seen werewolves 2 or 3 times. It's not something you want to cultivate, but and this guy told me, getting back to my story, that the transformation is very painful. And
If that's true, it would be.
Well, yeah, because your bones are changing, your snout,
Yeah.
all this weird stuff. So yeah, it was pretty bad.
Wow.
So I went that way, and I went through an initiation where I was turned into a kind of an entry-level vampire. What I was told is this initiation, which involved, believe it or not, huge amounts of cocaine, a bunch of herbs that I don't really want to care to get into, and an occult ceremony where I drank the blood from the chest of what I now believe is a fallen angel.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
So one of the principalities.
I talk about that in my book, Lucifer Dethroned. And also in my book, Romancing Death, which is all about the whole vampire cult thing.
I'll put them up in the video for you.
Anyway, so after that, I had to go and stay in. I had built my very own specially designed coffin. I had to stay in there, believe it or not, for 3 days. And I came out of it, and I was kind of transformed. I couldn't go out in the sunlight. I couldn't eat food. I couldn't even drink water. All I could do was take either Catholic communion or blood. That was my diet.
For how long?
About a year.
1 year of being a vampire. Now, did your teeth grow? People are going to want to know.
Let me put this delicately. When I was I mean, I could literally be around normal people and hear their pulse across the room.
So that's a true statement.
And I mean, if I got close to somebody, particularly a woman, because I happen to be obviously heterosexual, you know, I would feel kind of an arousal here. And if it got to the point that, you know, this, because understand, we had a network, we had over 170 people in our company by this time, because this was down the road a bit from the initial part. I mean, this is around 1979. And anyhow, we had about 4 or 5 women in our larger group that were delighted to let me tap their veins.
I see. Okay.
And so if I get into a semi-intimate thing with one of these women, then they would grow a little.
Really? Wow.
Down,
okay.
You know, not like some of them.
But enough to pierce the skin and actually, yeah. Wow.
They were, you know, the 2 canine teeth. And I know it sounds weird, but you've got to realize, and let me just back up a little. I talk about this in Romancing Death, but demonic possession, this has been documented both by psychiatry and, you know, and of course, obviously by ministers and also, you know, the exorcists in the Catholic Church. Not that I have that much promise with the Catholic Church, but, you know, the people that are possessed, they can have what are called somatic changes, where their body can change, where they're, you know, and of course you've heard about how they can be super strong, or they can, like it says in the Bible, the demoniac that could break the chains and nobody could hold it. That's real. And like, I know when I used to be an addictions counselor in a secular agency, and we had a young lady come in who had a lot of problems, and she had been horribly abused by her parents. If she ever misbehaved, this is like a 7-year-old child, they would tie her up naked to a rocking chair and whip her. And she was in the chair backwards, so they were whipping her back. Well, anyway, every month, as the moon got full, she would have to check herself into the psych ward, because otherwise she was going to kill herself. In the psych ward, in restraints, whip marks would appear on her back. Scars would appear on her back, real scars that were bleeding, just as if she was being whipped. Or
the demonic entities are touching her. Yeah.
And I give all the glory to Christ for this, but they brought her to me because they knew I was one of 2 people in the staff of this agency that were Christians, and they knew I was an ordained. So I worked with her, and in about 3 sessions, I got her to the place that she no longer had to go to the ER every full moon. Because she got set free by Yeshua, by Jesus. So, you know, but that's an example of how, if you're full of demons, they can change your face. They can do like make you a werewolf. They can make your teeth grow. They can, you know, give you claws. They can do all sorts of stuff, but you have to be just totally full of the devil. And I don't recommend that for anybody.
Now, totally full means you surrendered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no part of me that was not owned by the evil one. And, you know, because I literally, as part of this thing, I remember kneeling at an altar, you know, with a statue of Pan, you know, the great god Pan, quote unquote, and begging demons to come into me.
Okay.
I sold my soul to the devil. I wrote my name in the black book. That was all part of this deal, because I thought then I
physically or spiritually or in your mind.
Both.
But
no, I actually, you know, there was a park near Glen Ellen, Illinois, that was basically, it was a public park, but it was owned by the Satanists. And I went there because the guy who was my mentor, he told me that this park was owned by high-level Freemasons, and that they would make sure that cops would patrol around it and nobody would disturb us. And we went in there, and there was this big concrete altar that would be able to stand out in the elements. You know, this is outdoors, with statues of these Egyptian gods around it, you know, like Ra and Amun-Re and all of this junk. And I knelt there, and he had this black book, and I wrote cut my wrist and wrote my name in my own blood and sold my soul to the devil and promised I would serve him. for 7 years, and then he would get to take me to hell.
So why would that be tempting? I mean, did he explain to you that hell was fun?
First of all, you got to understand, Satanists believe hell is a non-stop orgy.
Okay.
They don't believe what they say. Let me just put it this way. Again, I was a biblical ignoramus, and they would tell me, okay, basically, there's two types of human beings, and if you're a loser and a sheep, they say that's why Jesus is called the Good Shepherd. He gets the sheep, but the sheep are boring. They're losers, and when they go to heaven, quote unquote, all they get is they get to sit on a cloud and twang away on a harp forever.
Right.
They say boring,
right?
You know? And whereas we, meaning the Satanists, are the wolves.
Okay.
And we prey on the sheep. And that's the natural order of things, which of course in nature it is.
You prayed a prayer decades ago, but it meant little.
What?
You never followed me. You never knew me.
But Lord, I did many good things in your church.
Why do you call me Lord? And yet you failed to do what I told you. Hell, you have never been mine.
No.
Now you must go away, for your deeds are evil.
No.
Bind him hand and foot.
No.
Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash.
Ways you think technology can be utilized in military warfare?
Some of the ways it's already being used, right? So you have this company, Palantir. And Palantir was that thing in Lord of the Rings that was like the all-seeing eye, right? And they've been around for a minute now, but they just went public a couple of years ago, so people are just now paying attention to them. But in the military, when you're trying to figure out how to manipulate people's perception, it's called PSYOP. Psychological operations is the job. And they do what's called an information operation, which is where first you have to go map out the information environment. So let's say you're a soldier in Afghanistan and there's a particular province like Helmand province that is, you know, you're trying to figure out how to manipulate what the people think there, right? Because it's a contested area. They're not positive towards the US, they're not negative towards the Taliban. So you want to go in there and try to sway them one way or the other. First thing on the information operation you have to do is go map out the information environment, which entails everything from the physical reality to the social networks to who's an influential voice. So back in the day, that would be like, oh, what radio station are they listening to? What times are they listening to it most? Who's the most popular kid at the high school? So we could go pay him, or who's the imam in the community that has more political sway, even if they're not the main one. And so you would do this stuff manually. And then from there, you could plan out, you know, your targeted mission operation. I forget what they called it. It's been years, but they called it your targeted information campaign. So then you'd figure out what you want them to say, and then you'd pick the channels you wanted to distribute it through. So I know that these high school students listen to the radio between 8 and 10 p.m. And so therefore, I'm going to go and I'm going to pay the radio station to run this message that's propaganda to them on the same day that earlier in the afternoon, the most popular high school kid gonna say something about it. And then the next day they gonna go and then a mom is gonna preach a message about it.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna see how their perception changes. So that's how they would map it out. And it was all manual. So there's lots of room for error, lots of room for humans that were on the other end of that campaign to be able to protect themselves. Like if you're not telling people who you cool with, you're not making your pattern so obvious, it's harder to be manipulated. But now it's all data driven. When you log into these social media companies and you like somebody's picture, you're creating what they call a graph. They call it a graph network in the technology. What that does is maps you to who's important to you, who matters to you, who's relevant to you, what you like, what you don't like. And then with platforms like Meta, if you link certain third-party apps that give their data to Meta, they can get a much bigger picture about you. So there's a very popular app for women to track their menstrual cycle. It's called Flow. And they give all their data to Facebook. So now, not only do I know that you like these people's pictures, this who you interact with more, but now I can see what you do during different phases of your cycle. When you on your cycle, right before your cycle, or you go look at your ex's page right before, and I know it's your ex because you done told me your relationship status and tagged them in it. So now all of that data is automated. What websites you go visit, and then you link up your Apple Watch and your health app, and they know when you sleep and know when you wake. Now they can try that to all your other behaviors. And then you link that to your journal app where you telling them how you feel every day. And now they see it even more. And then you log in with your Google or with your Meta to all these other websites that are now automatically collecting all that data about you and creating a graph about you that understands you better than you do. So much so that Amazon has patented algorithms that can predict if you're gonna buy an item or not. And so now we go back to Palantir, the all-seeing eye, which was originally created as a private company to kind of help with that information targeting process. They wanted to make it easier so you don't have to go on the ground, undercover and go talk to people to figure stuff out. We can just figure it out with data. And they're huge. And I think they just won like another $180 million contract either yesterday or today. And so what they're doing constantly is they're basically scraping or making copies of the whole internet. They're making copies of all these documents. They're making it so that all these intelligence officers can upload their reports, and they're, they be spying on people, and this is what this meant. They go have a diplomatic meeting and they writing their notes. Like all that stuff goes in there and creates an even more detailed graph about you. And the purpose of that is so that the military will say is to identify threats or to improve operational efficiency. What that means is, are you someone we need to be worried about? And if so, we already know everything about you to know how to change what you feel. That's dangerous to me. And all we're doing as individual individual humans in the world is participating in these digital platforms because they turn into real social currency. So if I don't have an Instagram, I'm gonna get looked at like I don't have an iPhone when I text somebody, right? Those things translate to real social benefits. So in order to participate in our society in a way where we have access to be able to come up or to be able to have additional streams of income, it requires that we participate in these platforms. So we really can't opt out. I mean, technically you can, but socially you really can't. And so now we're subject to being monitored and assessed in these ways. And the military's baby cousin, police forces, are using the same technology in ways that are absurd.
Those are the 7 men on Jekyll Island, and as incredible as it may seem, they represented approximately 1/4 of the wealth of the entire world. And these are the men that sat around a table on Jekyll Island and created the Federal Reserve System. What's going on here? Should arouse our curiosity a little bit. I'd like to just read for you a short excerpt taken from one article written by Frank Vanderlip, one of the attendees at that meeting. This was written in the Saturday Evening Post, and it appeared on February 9, 1935. This is what Vanderlip said. I do not feel it is any exaggeration to speak of our secret expedition to Jekyll Island as the occasion of the actual conception of what eventually became the Federal Reserve System. We were told to leave our last names behind us. We were told further that we should avoid dining together on the night of our departure. We were instructed to come one at a time, and as unobtrusively as possible, to the railroad terminal on the New Jersey littoral of the Hudson, where Senator Aldrich's private car would be in readiness, attached to the rear end of a train to the south. Once aboard the private car, we began to observe the taboo that had been fixed on last names. We addressed one another as Ben, Paul, Nelson, and Abe. Davison and I adopted even deeper disguises, abandoning our first name. On the theory that we were always right, he became Wilbur and I became Orville, to those two aviation pioneers, the Wright brothers. The servants and train crew may have known the identities of one or two of us, but they did not know all, and it was the names of all printed together that would have made our mysterious journey significant in Washington, in Wall Street, even in London. Discovery, we knew, simply must not happen. Why? What's the big deal here? What's wrong with a group of bankers getting together in private and talking about banking or banking legislation? And the answer to that question is provided by Vanderlip himself in the same article. He said, if it were to be exposed publicly that our particular group had got together and written a banking bill, that bill would have no chance whatever of passage by Congress. Why not? Because the purpose of the bill was to break the grip of the money trust. And ladies and gentlemen, it was written by the money trust. It's as simple as that. Had that fact been known from the very beginning, the public would never have accepted it as a means of breaking the grip over the money trust, and we would never have had a Federal Reserve System. So there is a primary reason for the secrecy, and it's a fact that most Americans have not even considered, that there might have been some kind of deception, massive deception at the very inception of the Federal Reserve System, and for a very good reason. But there's more to it than that, a lot more. Consider the composition of this group and the financial powers they represented. Is there anything strange about that mixture? Here we had the Rockefellers, we had the Morgans, Kuhn, Loeb and Company, Rothschilds, Warburgs, all in one room for 9 days plus 2 days on the train, coming to an agreement. What's going on here? Ladies and gentlemen, these were competitors. These were the giants in the field which prior to this period had been beating their heads against each other for dominance in the marketplace, for dominance in the financial markets of the world, not only New York, but Paris and London, everywhere. This is extremely significant because it happened at precisely that point of American history when business was undergoing a major ideological transition. Prior to this period, America had grown and prospered and surpassed all the countries of Europe as an industrial and economic power because it adhered to the principle of free enterprise competition. And it was in this period that a rapid transition was taking place to the concept of monopoly and cartel. Going back, in fact, to the old world concept, which had held Europe back for all these years. Monopolies and cartels were becoming the order of the day in America. It was John D. Rockefeller I who said it, competition is a sin. And he and others of these industrialists of the period were devoting all of their time to the elimination of competition. They did not believe in free enterprise competition at all. They knew that the road to riches and power was through the elimination of their competition.
Those three cities belong to no nation and pay no taxes. They are Washington's District of Columbia, which is not part of the city of Washington or of the United States, the inner city of London, which is not part of London or England, and Vatican City, which is not part of Rome or Italy. These cities, called city-states, have their own independent flag, their own separate laws, and their own separate identity. Like Vatican City, London's inner city is also a privately owned corporation or city-state, located right smack in the heart of Greater London. It became a sovereign state in 1694 when King William III of Orange privatized and turned the Bank of England over to the bankers. By 1812, Nathan Rothschild crashed the English stock market and scammed control of the Bank of England. Today, the city-state of London is the world's financial power center and the wealthiest square mile on the face of the earth. It houses the Rothschild-controlled Bank of England, Lloyd's of London, the London Stock Exchange, all British banks, the branch offices of 385 foreign banks, and 70 U.S. banks. It has its own courts, its own laws, its own flag, and its own police force. It's not part of Greater London or England or the British Commonwealth and pays no taxes. The city-state of London houses Fleet Street's newspaper and publishing monopolies. It is also the headquarters for worldwide English Freemasonry and headquarters for the worldwide money cartel known as the Crown. Contrary to popular belief, the Crown is not the royal family or the British monarch. The Crown is the private corporate city-state of London. It has a council of 12 members who rule the corporation under a mayor called the Lord Mayor. The Lord Mayor and his 12-member council serve as proxies or representatives who sit in for 13 of the world's wealthiest, most powerful banking families. This ring of 13 ruling families includes the Rothschild family, the Warburg family, the Oppenheimer family, and the Xxiv family. These families and their descendants run the Crown Corporation of London. The Crown Corporation holds the title to worldwide Crown land in Crown colonies like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. The British Parliament and the British Prime Minister serve as a public front for the hidden power of these ruling Crown families. Like the city-state of London and the Vatican, a third city-state was officially created in 1982. That city-state is called the District of Columbia and is located on 10 square miles of land in the heart of Washington. The District of Columbia flies its own flag and has its own independent constitution. Although geographically separate, the city-states of London, the Vatican, and the District of Columbia are one interlocking empire called Empire of the City. The flag of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars, one for each city-state in the 3-city empire. This corporate empire of 3 city-states controls the world economically through London's inner city, militarily through the District of Columbia, and spiritually through the Vatican. The Constitution for the District of Columbia operates under a tyrannical Roman law known as Lex Fori, which bears no resemblance to the U.S. Constitution. When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporate government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act allowed the District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution of the United States and outside of the best interests of American citizens. A sobering study of the signed treaties and charters between Britain and the United States exposes a shocking truth. The United States has always been, and still is, a British Crown colony.
The movie industry, along with the mainstream news and what passes for academia these days, have been weaponized and used as social engineering tools to further a political agenda.
One of the biggest tools in the hands of the masters who run this world is Hollywood. Hollywood is an incredible story. I've said this, and maybe many hearing me now have heard me say this, but I'll say it again, that the white man's establishment comes from Europe, and northern, southern, well, all four, northeast, south, and western Europe, even at the time of the Roman Empire and before, that whole section of Europe that we call the center for the white man's presence on the earth was quite literally ruled over. Ancient Europe was ruled over by a priesthood called the Druids. And the Druids were they were the ministers, the priests, the judges, the lawyers, they were the religious leaders, so there was a priesthood that dominated Europe. It still does. Europe is still a Druidic country, and America is a Druidic country. And unless you understand the Druidic system, then you're never going to figure out what's going on in America and England. But one of the most important symbols in the Druid system was a magic wand, like Merlin, the magician with the magic wand, and also the orchestra leaders and conductors always have a magic wand, and you have better play to the tune of the master. He directs you to play, and he directs you to stop with the magic wand. So you're dancing to his music, okay? Magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of holly wood.
Just hit the reset button. Don't pay attention to the world ending. It's ended many times and began again in the morning. Because guess what? You're stuck in analysis paralysis. Planning, analyzing. But here's the truth. Every moment is the right moment. There's one thing you must do to face this. And don't lie to me. You're going to wake up and run away from your problem again, aren't you? Hey, guess what? It's time to fix it. The sun is going to set, and it's going to happen all over again. Hit that reset button.
No one trusts the government.
Point being, why would you trust your kids to be educated by the government?
Right. Vodi Bachman said, don't be surprised when you send your kids off to Caesar and they come back as Romans. Like, that's it. That's it, man. You're wondering why everyone's gone woke and has no idea what bathroom to use anymore. Just, if like, what happened to our kids? I'm like, well, you gave them to the government for their entire childhood. You saw them at dinner and you attended their sporting events, but the government raised your kids. And social media helped. And video games or whatever, but you saw them every day, but you didn't raise them. You didn't log enough hours each day to counteract all the poison and time wasting and ideological propagandistic crap that they were getting fed year after year after year. And so millennial generation and now Gen Z has gone woke. And we feel like, oh, what happened to my daughter? We raised him better than that. No. I mean this in love, but you didn't raise him at all. That hurts to say because I know it hurts people to hear, but the government raised him, and that's what happened.
It is on a called secret society from the point of view that the Jesuit order, what you know of the Jesuit order and what everybody knows of the Jesuit order is not the truly Jesuit order. What that means is even the Jesuits within the Jesuit order, they all are not knowing the secret society, the inner secret society that they are surrounded by. To have even to say that at this point in the history of the United States, in the history of the presidents, has not been other president. From the time of President Washington, that was the first president to be utilized by the Jesuits. If you were not aware of that, President Washington already was initiated by the Jesuits to bring about the first communication with the Vatican ever known in this country. From there on, President Reagan, to all this time, President Reagan has come to fulfill the greatest moment in the history of this conspiracy, because no other president has come as close as President Reagan with the Vatican, and even not even John F. Kennedy. What that means is they have done to President Kennedy, to President Reagan, what they were not able to do even through a Roman Catholic president. And nevertheless, I will say this: the religious belief of President Kennedy is nothing more, nothing else than another expression of Catholicism. Perhaps I need to clear this. Roman Catholicism is not only the Roman Catholicism Roman Catholicism is still, and it has been at work outside the Roman Catholic system. But that means there are many daughters of the Roman Catholic system outside the Roman Catholic system. And as there are many daughters, these daughters have children, and of course President Reagan fit within that picture. His relationship with the Vatican today brought about several things. One of them is the diplomatic relationship with the Vatican. Second, the preparation for the signature of a concordat between the Vatican and the United States. And if you want to know, this never took place overnight. President Reagan was prepared and is here for the task that is performing today as President of the United States by the Jesuits of Rome, and the time that he served as a star in a movie that was very well known and still being shown today, a very old movie about the football team of Notre Dame. New York. That's correct. This is the time that the first contact was made by the Jesuits with Reagan. Jesuits, under the stream of an induction, they were not directly to be involved. They only were the elements, the intellectual element that will prepare this. The case of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, the president, was killed by the Jesuits of Rome, but there was no a Jesuit there involved directly. Nevertheless, was the Jesuit who prepared the plot against his life and prepared and trained those who were to kill him.
They arranged it.
Yes, it happened with President Kennedy, the same thing. The assassination of Kennedy is another fact that can be proved of any time that was ordered and by the Jesuits in order to get rid of a president that already was ashamed to the Roman Catholic institution, being a Roman Catholic. You have two different extremes. In Abraham Lincoln, you have that there was a man professing to be a Christian, solid Christian, and then there you have a man that professed to be a solid Catholic, but then put to shame his own institution when he was confronted about what he will do as a Roman Catholic president about the Constitution and about the interests of the Roman Catholic institution. When he placed the Constitution of the United States above the canon laws of the institution, he called for disaster.
Direction of nobody having a job. Like we're developing AI, everything's getting automated, everything's getting outsourced, and so even though it was almost like we're moving in a direction that is a detriment to the current system. If nobody has a job and everyone has the same amount of money and money means nothing and the government's telling you what to do, that's not where we want to be. But we are moving in that direction.
I think we're moving in a direction where we're not going to be necessary.
That's what I'm saying. So then what do? You just let everybody starve?
I don't know if it has to come to that.
Like when there are no jobs for people to do, when there's robots and machines doing most of the work, what does everyone else do?
I don't think, baby, I don't think. What is that? That's ghetto. I don't think. I know.
So you
think.
I'm about to up and down. You'll be coming back, no doubt. Baby, please don't make a sound. You're waking up my neighbors now. I'm about to up and down. You'll be coming back, no doubt. Baby, please don't make a sound. You're waking up my neighbors now. You'll be coming back, no doubt. I think about you all day, low key. Meaning I don't want you to leave.
When the spotlight went out, I was still an outcast, shunned and hated.
Guess there no peace for the wicked looking.
Gambit.
No, he's right. Though all people are flawed and all struggle with the capacity for sin, none likes to be reminded of our shared human weakness. My appearance does not make it easy.
Don't it make you crazy?
It did once, but then I found peace by devoting my life to God. He directed me to this place where they value the character of my heart. not my appearance.
What are you talking about? We're mutants. God gave up on us a long time ago.
No, my friend. God does not give up on his children, human or mutant. He is there for us in our times of joy and to help us when we are in pain, if we let him.
Don't give me that easy answer garbage. I've tried. Don't you think I want that? I don't need a sermon from some circus boy preacher. Looking for a moment alone.
We are like you and I, angry at the world, and ourselves. My pain drove me to seek God. Yours drove you away.
Don't tell me about God. What kind of God would let men do this to me?
Our ability to understand God's purpose is limited. But we take comfort in the fact that his love is limitless.
I used to buy into all that, but I've lived too long, and I've done too much.
Life will always be hard. I understand this better than most. Yet despite it all, people of every faith believe there is a God who loves them. Can so many be wrong? Open your heart here, Logan. Would it hurt so much to see the world through different eyes?
What about the monastery?
A great tragedy. But it was only stone and water. The foundation God has built in our hearts can never be destroyed.
Man, I don't get you.
Yeah. I've marked a few passages you may find rewarding. Remember, Herr Logan, different eyes.
I will give thanks to you, O Lord, for though you were angry with me, your anger turned away, and you comforted me. I will trust and will not be afraid.
Rogue says the things you said to Wolverine meant a lot to him.
Our time together meant a great deal to both of us.
There's something I need to ask you. I don't know who my parents are either. I was never really adopted like you. One family would have me for a while, then they'd get tired of me, and I'd get put somewhere else. You know, I used to feel like I didn't belong anywhere.
We all feel like that sometimes. Friends can help. But in our times of loneliness, we forget that we are all part of a greater family, the family of God. All other comfort is fleeting. Only God endures.
It all sounds so nice. But what if this is your mom? What'll you say? I mean, she dumped you when you were a baby. Aren't you mad?
I suppose I am. But every day, I pray for the Lord to forgive my sins and to forgive the sins of others, even those who have done harm to me.
I don't think I could do that.
That is why I look to God for help, because we cannot do it by ourselves. He can give you the strength to forgive.
I gotta cut soon, but I just want to tell you that talking to you was one of the best parts of my whole year.
Yeah, right.
What the hell are you all still doing here? What, are you in love with my ass or something? Well, why don't you just get up off that couch and come here and kiss me on my ass then? Jesus Christ. Oh, well, fine. It is now official. You have just wasted most of my fucking day. It's lunchtime already. Damn. You will excuse me, won't you? Well, thank you very much. One of them juicy motherfuckers. Oh, yeah. I love this shit. Oh, damn. Y'all gotta get a laugh, I'm telling you. I bet you these go over real big at the police station. Damn. Well, fuck you very much.
A black man follows me everywhere when it's sunny.
Actually, I think that's your shadow, Rick.